Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I've got a question for our hard-working Fisheries Minister, now that he's present on the floor. And it is a question without notice, although I've had some communication with him, so he will be aware somewhat of this particular issue that I'm raising. But at the outset, and in the first place, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to pay my respects and acknowledgements of Grand Chief, Sir Michael Thomas Somare, seeing that it is the first anniversary of his passing. We continue to acknowledge this great man on this floor and throughout our country. I know our people are acknowledging him. I also do the same, and I mentioned that our Abel family has a special relationship with the Grand Chief, particularly through Sir Cecil Abel, who was our Grand Chief's lecturer at the Admin College back in the 60s. He was also one of the founding fathers of the Bully Beef Club and, of course, the Pangu Party. And Sir Cecil Abel went on to become the first regional member for Milne Bay. But he continued as a Grand Chief's chief advisor. And so I had many fond memories of sitting in Waigani and listening to Grand Chief and Sir Cecil and even Sir John Guise cracking jokes and telling stories there. And it was a wonderful privilege to listen and benefit from the words of wisdom from this great man. But otherwise, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as I mentioned, there is an issue that I've raised with the Minister for Fisheries in relation to 5 long-line fishing vessels that entered the waters of Milne Bay and anchored at Alotau in January of this year. The public noticed those vessels and alerted myself to it, and I subsequently made inquiries to our Governor and our PEC Chairman for Fisheries and even the Provincial Administrator, and none of them were aware of these boats and what they were doing in Milne Bay waters. So I subsequently messaged the good minister that if he would find out some further information on that. About a week later, I received a 2-page brief from our Fisheries Division of the provincial government that these vessels were here to fish in Milne Bay waters through the National Fishing Authority, and we're going through the final licensing requirements. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have these questions in relation to that. Number one, to the Minister, in recent times we've had a disaster in terms of licensing of the Bêche de Mer fisheries season in Milne Bay, resulting in massive depletion of the stock and even associated law and order issues in relation to the harvesting of the Bêche de Mer. I think primarily due to licensing, wholesale licensing issuing from Port Moresby with a lack of proper consultation with the provincial government or with the resource owners or LLG authorities. And is this another example of this trend, Mr. Deputy Speaker? Number two, who owns these boats, and why is there no awareness, consultation with the resource owners or lower levels of government, leaders or the public in general about this activity? Number three, Mr. Deputy Speaker, these boats appear to have left the harbour. Are they currently fishing in Milne Bay waters? Number four, Mr. Deputy Speaker, what assurances do we have that they will not take stock from the archaeological waters of Milne Bay, as currently seems to happen with the illegal fishing from boats from Southeast Asian countries? Number five, Mr. Deputy Speaker, can the Minister ensure that proper engagement and consultation and awareness is conducted for this and any other future licensing of fisheries activities, whether it be in Milne Bay or in any other province? And Mr. Deputy Speaker, I note the question, I believe last week, from Member for Asala regarding Jomad Passage and a similar issue relating to consultation. And I also noticed the concerns raised by Honourable James Donald in relation to Penyang and consultation with low-level governments, with landowners, and with we leaders is very, very important. And this is another case in point. I put these questions to our good Minister for Fisheries. Thank you.
Honourable Minister for Fisheries.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Long. Member of Long, Halatau, Honourable Charles Abel, Long, all questions I'm asking. In regard to the first question I'm asking, I think I've been messaging me time, I'm looking some boats been go down Long, Halatau. Now maybe forwarding all questions and issues where I'm raising, maybe forwarding go along, Managing Director of NFA at that time. Now I've been talking, you may salim some brief go along office long so that I can savelong also something. Unfortunately, I think from the way questions I'm asking, I think we realize him was all this answers where I'm all supposed long right in the salim gulong I think I'm not been kissing. So bami Dr. Quantum all office line blomina ba makes him all this answers long na I think bami give him maybe tomorrow. Number two, I think in terms of awareness, long all this owners long boats, licensing long all fisheries in Chatlo country and board them sabi making. The only license where Mr. Panitlo jurisdiction blomi long somebody like wara close to long Daruna, this la doglog area long Yumi, low country. That's the only area where I'm come directly underneath the jurisdiction blomi as a minister. Otherwise, all narapla licensing, I'm so go through long board blomi pla. As you people probably would understand is that the board is an independent process that actually takes into account everything. Firstly, there must be some management plans in place. Once the management plans are in place, based on the management plans, the board actually issues the license. So there's something that's something where we know really actively take part on them. But since member blo alatao embracing these issues, bami luluko inside long isla na bami give him insight in regard long isla five vessels where leader you ask him. In terms long licensing, like me talk, you get him time like make him licensing and this board, make him licensing based long application where come inside na based long this management plan where this particular fish species where like commercial species were like or like harvestium. So this process of me talk I'm quite independent. I'm step on them board long NFA. So something where time or racing issues so now I'm racing. Now but me take him up on them board. I'm something where directly me gonna influence him board la talk him all this number of fish on him all this companies come so you give him license na kind of so all this something I'm step on them board. So time embracing issues now in line one time all this five ships when we talk one company where all this ships belong to bami kissing this issues up on them board bami right long all na bami talk all provide him on brief so that bami provide him all answers or relevant answers long member